So good morning everyone and welcome to the next video. After the brief review on capabilities of onboard tools for drawing, in this video and the next video we're going to take a closer look on what is possible with some more professional tools. So probably this and the next video are not for every one of you. So for those of you who are more deep into drawing and who really love to draw a lot and use it during a training, maybe you can get some ideas. And for the rest of you, sit back, relax, enjoy, and maybe find some inspiration to experiment and try something new. So as mentioned in the last video, we're going to review two different tools. I have selected Sketchable and Sketchbook Pro. And in this video, we're going to take a closer look on the capabilities of the Sketchable tool. So let's move over to Sketchable. And the first thing that we see is that all the drawings that we create are organized in different channels. So we can browse through them just by using the arrow keys on the keyboard or the mouse. And so you can organize your drawings in a very nice way. So this is a unique feature that I like very much, I have to say. So, and for example, if we are going to open the sketchbook that I use for this training, then we can open the book and we can browse through it with the finger, and you see my drafts for the last pictures that I created. Some of them maybe look familiar. We have seen them during the training already. And sorry, I didn't want to open it. So we're just going to a blank page and open the blank page. And there we go. So what we already see here in this blank page is that I already created some grid pattern. So this is something that you can do right here on the side. You can configure, for example, the color of the grid pattern and the opacity. So for example, here we can change the value of the color. I put it to black, and here we can change the opacity. I typically turn it down very much, so it's only visible for me as a small help, but it's only barely visible to the audience. The handling of the page is pretty easy. You can use the fingers, turn it and everything, so very comfortable. Yeah, and that's basically our setup of the page. What I'm going to do now is I will open the settings and I will increase the size of the UI to make it better visible for you what I'm doing. So you see I can change the UI size. Normally I have it not in that big size. This is just for now for the video. Okay, and then let's take a look at how to draw with it. So basically, like in every other tool as well, you can select different types of pens right here. For example, I'm opening the marker. The marker is typically the one kind of pen that we are using to draw. And I can also move this one somewhere else. Oh, sorry. Wanted to move it like that. And so here we can select between different configured markers. We can configure our own pens, which is some very important aspect. And we can change the settings of the individual pens as well. As you see, we have plenty of settings, so you really can create the pen in the way as you want it. But most of the time, I have to admit, I'm using two standard pens. A black one for the outline. We can change the size, for example. And a second one for highlighting, shadows, colors, and stuff like that. Same thing here. We can change the size. We can change the stroke opacity. And we can change the flow type. And this is more than sufficient. So I'm not changing too much during a training. I rather pre-configure them and everything is fine. The second thing that we're using is basically here the color pane. I just move it up a little bit. And in the color pane here, we have different possibilities to adjust the colors. I think here should be something for everyone. So pretty easy. Let's say I want to have some type of green and a little bit more light and whatever you want. And then if you find a color that you like, you can also open the swatch pane. And in the swatch pane, there you can add some colors that you would like to have in a quick access menu. Like I have my green one, yellow, pink, and stuff like that. Okay, these are just the basic functions. And now we can already start drawing. So for example, we can use the black one and draw some outline or some text. We can say, these are my key messages, for example. My key messages. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit too thick, the pen. Doesn't matter. And what I like here very much is the good integration with a surface style. So in the gadgets video, I already have introduced my surface style, which is a kind of a scroll wheel, which gives us the possibility to browse through context-based menus. And in that particular case, I will just put it down here so you can see it. By pushing the surface style, I can switch between different menu items, like for example, the colors. So I can choose the colors manually right here, or I can move over to the pen. This is the typical menu that I have opened during drawing. And by clicking on the pen, now I can I can readjust different settings. Like in my case, I have configured to change the stroke opacity. I can change the diameter of the pen, and I can change the angle. So if I just use, for example, this pen, which is a little bit more thick, so now we can see the pen here. And you see I'm changing the angle here in the middle. I can also make it a little bit bigger, so you better see. So now it's pretty big one, and I'm changing the angle, and you see this is how I can change my pen. And this is something typically during drawing. I always have the pen in my right hand, and I have the surface style in the left hand, and this is how I'm working here. So let's make it smaller again. This is just the one for the colors. And now let's give it a better try. I'm just erasing this one here. And here, during drawing, typically, I start again with the right pen, the right color. I'm selecting the diameter size, and now I have a better value for the text. And here I can take a note like our key messages. Then typically, yeah, we could put in some bullet points, whatever you want to have, doesn't matter. And I'm using very often a kind of a sign, so something like that. So we get a sign, we put the sign to the ground. There it is in the ground. Okay, and now maybe we put a person next to it. Now I make something wrong here. Give me one moment. So this is a person, and the person thinks that this one here is absolutely fantastic. Okay, and now you see that the person is pretty small in comparison with the sign. And this is the benefit of our digital drawing tool in comparison to the flip chart. We can, sorry, wrong one. We can now simply select it and make use of the digital capabilities and change the size if it didn't work out the way we wanted to. And now we have the person in the right size and everything is good. Deselect again and give it some floor. And so this is the basic thing how we are drawing here. And you see that it's pretty fast with the tools. It's similar to a flip chart. And so I think this is something that can work out very well during a training. The next thing that we're doing is we want to give it some color. But before I give it the color, I make something. I'm opening the layer menu. So as I already mentioned before, the pro tip is to work with layers. So if we create, for example, here a new layer for our color, and now we have a second layer, and that's one we can use for coloring. I will show you later what's the reason behind. So let's give it some color. For example, let's assume, I would say, of course, the floor should be something like green. Oops. I'm not really used to the big menu items here for the video, so I always have to move them around. I check my size before I'm drawing, and I make it a little bit bigger, and the angle, and so we can start coloring it. That's also something, by being able to make a bigger pen size, you're much more faster in coloring than typically in on-site trainings with a real flip chart. So make it a little bit smaller again for the gray. And now we get the shadows done here. Maybe a little bit more smaller. That's a good one. Now we can create the shadows. Always looks better with a shadow. Same thing for here. And for the person. And maybe we also give it a little bit of color. Something like that. So you see, it doesn't take much more time than working on a real flip chart. And that's a pretty good thing. Okay, then this is basically some picture. Of course, we also could give it a frame. I don't finish it right here. What I want to show you now is that the aspect with the different layers can be very useful here. Because as you remember, I created the color and the outlines on a different layer. So this gives me now the possibility, by opening the layer pane again. Now I can, for example, I can say that I want to hide this one. And so I get the outline again. And what you can do, or what I'm doing typically, is if I draft a sketch and I have the outline like this, then I can reduce the opacity. Something like, oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong layer. Here the reduction of opacity doesn't work. Here it works. So if I'm using the opacity like this, or make it a little bit more, something like that, so you do not see very much of it anymore. But as I'm sitting close to it, I can see the outlines. So with this mechanism, I can reuse my sketches as a template when I'm going to create some drawings during a training. And this is, yeah, it gives me some kind of confidence to see what I'm drawing, to arrange the spacing and stuff like that. And it helps to be a little bit faster here. So to summarize everything here, I think that the Sketchable tool, it's a pretty nice one for drawing. I do like in particular the integration with the surface tile, which I find that it makes me much faster in drawing with changing the pens and the colors and stuff like that. So this is something that I like very much. There is some initial overhead necessary to learn how the tool works, but I think it took me half a day or something like that. I was watching 1 or 2 video tutorials, and then it was pretty fine. And if you're used to drawing, you get your colors as you want to have and the pens, then the drawing itself is done pretty fast. The tool itself, I think there is a free version available, but I bought the Pro version, which was around $25 or something like that, so it's not too much of an investment. And yeah, it's a nice drawing tool. Something that is not that good here is possibly you don't have a ruler. And so if you want to make some mathematical drawings and diagrams, so then this is probably not the best fitting tool. But for typical graphical facilitation, I like it very much. I'm comfortable with it. And yeah, I hope it was nice for you to see. And maybe you also want to give it a try, download it, and check out if this one can work for you. So that's about the Sketchable tool. And in the next video, we're going to review another tool, which is Autodesk Sketchbook Pro. I think this one is completely free now. And then we also can compare them. And yeah, for me personally, I'm working with both tools. I couldn't say which one I do prefer, but give it a try and make a conclusion on your own. So see you in the next video. and let's check out Autodesk Sketchbook Pro there. See you there.